Okay. So Prabhupada wrote this letter to GBCs and all his senior disciples. He said, I have also suggested for the GBC's consideration that we introduce a system of examinations for the devotees to take. Prabhupada himself established this system that GBCs can consider and make some system of examinations for all the devotees who can take this examination of Bhakti Shastri. We'll see those details in our future slides. Sometimes there is a criticism that our men are not sufficiently learned, especially the Brahmanas. Of course, second initiation does not depend upon passing an examination. It doesn't mean that the person is not Bhakti Shastri, so he will not get second initiation. His Bhakti standards are very low. We can't say that. But Bhakti Shastri exams and this learning process is meant for those people who want to study scripture seriously and who want to preach this message of Krishna consciousness to people by learning the scriptures, not like just fake philosophies, but properly learning the scriptures and then preaching to the people. Prabhupada says how one has molded his life, chanting, attending artis, and these are the essential things. Like Prahlad Maharaj says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam. The Navvida Bhakti has been told by Prahlad Maharaj, and those are the actually essential things. But Prabhupada says still Brahmana means Pandita. Those who are in Krishna consciousness, those who are part of ISKCON family, they should try to learn these scriptures. Although the standard of our bhakti or our devotion does not really depends on how much we mug up these shlokas and all those things, but definitely these Bhakti Shastri courses help us for reaching Krishna consciousness nicely in a better way. Therefore, I am suggesting, Prabhupada said, therefore, I am suggesting the following examinations. So, what Prabhupada wrote at that time, Bhakti Shastri for all Brahmanas, based on Bhagavad Gita, Sri Upanishad, the Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and all other smaller paperbacks books which Prabhupada has published. So, this is the letter which Prabhupada wrote in 1976. In 10th January 1976, he wrote to Sarup Damodar Maharaj. This is a letter. And he told that Bhakti Shastri means those four books. Bhakti Vaibhav means those four books plus six cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bhakti Vedanta means those four smaller books, Nectar of Instruction, Ishopanishad, Bhagavad Gita, six cantos plus all other cantos also, 7 to 12. So that is called Bhakti Vedanta. Bhakti Sarvabhauma means studying Chaitanya Charitamrita also. So Prabhupada said these studying is like Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. These studies will be like MA, BA, PhD. In this way, Prabhupada wrote this letter. So just consider how to organize this institute. Prabhupada wrote this letter in 1976. And we know when Prabhupada passed away. In 1977, he passed away. Just before leaving, he wrote this letter, and GBC has taken it very seriously, and they are conducting Bhakti Shastri courses. So Prabhupada has written, at Mayapur, you can finalize this thing and you can start these courses. There is another letter which Prabhupada wrote in 1976 only. That was in January. This is in February. So in next month only, he has written to Rupanuga Prabhuji. He said the examination is meant for the intelligent class, not all. Prabhupada always used to say, Ekas Chandra Tamo Hanti Nachatara Sahasrasa. There is no need for thousand. Only one moon is enough to illuminate the entire sky. One moon cannot be compared to millions of stars which are there in the sky. So Prabhupada always meant this. We should have a culture of studying and we should have cultivation and the boiling of the milk should happen and we can process these knowledge. The examination is meant for the intelligent class, not all. Neither it is compulsory. It is not that everyone has to do it, but those who are interested for like deepening their studies in scripture, they can affiliate to these courses. So to pass the examination means one must have knowledge. So if we are appearing for examinations, we should have knowledge. There are higher intelligent class of disciples. Otherwise, it is not compulsory. So those who want to use their intelligence in studying scriptures, Prabhupada has written this letter. So how to organize, how to do it, your GBC can decide. I have given the idea now how to do it. It is up to the GBC. So Prabhupada gave this proposal in 1976 to the GBC, how to do it. This is a very famous shloka. Some of you who have opened Bhagavatam anytime, in the preface only, Prabhupada has written this shloka. This shloka has a very nice meaning and very nice mood of this shloka is there. Tadvad visargo janataga viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abhadvati api namani anantasya yashonkitani yat shrinavanti gayanti grananti sadhava. Those who are sadhavas, those who are devotees of the Lord, they sing, they preach about, they remember those pastimes of Lord Krishna. Namani Anantasya. Lord Krishna is glorified. His fame is glorified in many ways. Namani Anantasya. But when scriptures are written about these glories of the Supreme Lord, the person who is writing, in his writing, there might be some discrepancies of like grammar or something, the formation of the sentences or the current language trends and the new language trend. There might be a difference between language trends. Language trends before were different and now it's different. So there might be some abhadvati, like when there is a flow of Gangaji in Rishikesh and Haridwar, there is a flow of Gangaji. So there are a lot of bubbles which come in Ganga and they carry some mud particles. But those who are seekers of the essence, they don't see those mud particles. They see the essence of Ganga flowing and they take bath and take Charnamrit of Ganga. So similarly, when such literatures are written in which there might be some discrepancies of like grammar and other things, so, but they are mentioning about the glories of the Supreme Lord, devotees don't think about those such silly mistakes, but they seek the essence of the entire scripture. And this verse is Tadvad Visargo Janatag Viplavo. Such glories of the Supreme Lord are meant to purify the entire humanity and they can create a revolution. If you see the fourth line of this translation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. So Janataga Viplavo, it can create a revolution. And we see also how different Buddhist religion and other religions have spread just based on some books only. So Prabhupada was this shloka he has written. The Prabhupada has written this shloka in the beginning of Bhagavatam. There might be some discrepancies of grammar and anything, but Tadvad Visargo, such should not be taken seriously because such scriptures which describes about the glories of the Supreme Lord, Namani Anantasya, Yash means the fame of the Supreme Lord. Such scriptures actually make the entire civilization purified of their misdirections. So in this way, they should not be taken like the example of Gangaji is given. So just a basic introduction of Bhakti Shastri course. We will be covering these four books: Nectar of Instruction, Ishopanishad, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita. Nectar of Instruction, also called as Upadeshamrit, Ishopanishad, and Nectar of Devotion, Bhaktisamrit Sindhu. Will not be covering the entire Bhaktisamrit Sindhu, but the initial chapters of like 19 to 20 chapters of Bhaktisamrit Sindhu. Beyond that, beyond those chapters are beyond our realizations and comprehension. So we will be studying the initial chapters of Bhaktisamrit Sindhu and the entire Bhagavad Gita. So assessments will be done, like there will be open book essays. We will figure out how we will do. We will see how we can conduct these assessments. Open book essays will be there. Closed book short answers will be there. We'll be giving some whatever will be discussed in a class. We'll be giving some short question answers. So you have to just close your books, read and close your books, and then you can write those. And there will be closed book short essays, like you have to write whatever you understood. So you can write short essays about those topics. Then there will be presentations. You can make some 5 to 10 PPTs, 5 to 10 slides, and you can then present the topic. You can explain the topic either to me personally, or you can do in the group also if you feel comfortable. Shloka memorization, I love it because shloka memorization is like a genuine bona fide prayers you are learning so that you can go in front of the Lord and you can speak those. There are sometimes people say, Prabhuji, please go and pray for me. Prabhuji, what prayer should I pray? So it's better to actually learn shlokas, which are actually sung by various great devotees of the Supreme Lord. They have sung those prayers. Like Kunti Maharani prayer comes in the first canto, and there will be a lot of prayers which we will be seeing. So those prayers can be learned, and shloka memorization you can do, and you can send me an audio or a video how you are learning those shlokas. That will be very interesting also. Recently, I made one group also in which I was teaching small childrens. Small childrens, I was teaching how they can learn shlokas. If in the childhood age only, if they can learn shlokas, it will be very nice for them for in the future to relish those shlokas. Right now we can mug up. In future we can relish them. Like in the school days also used to mug up the shloka, mug up the whole system, and then we can, if we are interested, we can relish also in future. So any questions till now, or we will start the introduction about Sri Upadeshamrita?
Prabhuji, I was having one question. Can I share?
Okay, tell me. If some
Prabhuji,
detailed question is there, we can discuss later. If some short query is there, you can ask.
yeah, sir, it's just a short query. I want to know the reason of selecting these four specific books.
Can you repeat?
I want to know the reason of the selecting these four books, like NOI,
Okay.
Nectar of Instruction, this thing.
Okay. The reason for selecting these four books only. These are actually they create a very like basis of our ISKCON standards. Like Bhakti Shastri makes a basis. It clears you that Supreme Lord Krishna is there and what he has given in Bhagavad Gita. And the question you have asked is very interesting because if you see the future slides, you will understand why we are studying Upadeshamrita. You will understand why this Upadeshamrita has been taken into Bhakti Shastri course. Why not like direct Bhagavatam and direct Chaitanya. Because as Prabhupada said, it's like BA, MA, and PhD. It's like that. So it makes a very solid foundation to understand the higher subjects. That's why these books have been taken. So we will start now. So Nectar of...
Sorry, Hare Krishna Prabhu. One more small question. In what order we will be taking, and one after another we will complete, or at the end only everything we will have the assessment or examination?
No. What will happen actually? We will take Nectar of Instruction. Like today, I will be discussing the introduction and also the verse number 1. Let's see how much we can cover. But whatever will be covered, the questions will be given for 1 week. Like whatever
Okay.
I will be covering today, questions will be given for that, and you have to respond before next week class. Before next Friday, you have to respond about those questions. You have to give answers to those. Then those will be very basic questions, like whatever we'll be teaching. If you make notes of it, if you hear properly, you will automatically get answers for that, those, because everything will be presented. So answers you can very easily get. And first we will be covering Nectar of Instruction, then Ishopanishad, then Bhagavad Gita, then Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
Okay.
Slowly we will be covering everything. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. So we'll start now. So Actually, we should pray to Srila Rupa Goswami at this point, because of his mercy we are reading this book. He has given this Sri Upadesh Amrit. If you see the name of the book also, Upadesh Amrit, nectar of instructions. So generally, if you read a few verses of first few verses of this book, you will not might not think that these are like Amrit. These are instructions which are like nectar. But these are nectar for those devotees who want to advance, who want to progress in spiritual life. These are the instructions which devotees should practice and try to follow whenever they are stuck up somewhere, or whenever they are confused. They should actually remember these instructions. So we'll start now. Prabhupada has given a summary study of Nectar of Instruction, and very beautifully he has written all the commentaries. We'll see in future slides. So my way of presenting will be like I will be presenting text also, so you can read also, and some things I will be speaking. If you want, you can note down also. And I will try to share this uh, presentation in a PDF form to all of you. So those things which are presented, you need not to write, but those things which you feel I have spoken, but they're not on the slides, you can write those things also. For the benefit of all living beings, Srila Rupa Goswami churned the ocean of Sriman Mahaprabhu's instructions and extracted the essence in the form of Sri Upadesh Amrit. The instructions given in this book are indispensable for practitioners of the devotional path. The word used is very important, indispensable. These instructions has to be followed. They are not like we can't take options. They have to be followed if we are practitioners of this devotional path, especially Gaudiya Parampara. If you are following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the foremost of the follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srila Rupa Goswami. So we are all are called in ISKCON and Gaudiya Math, and whoever is a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are called as Rupanugas. You must have heard this term and in various lectures also. So we are all are called as Rupanugas. Rupanugas, Anu means to follow. Anu means Anukaran, Anushasan. So Anu means to follow. So we are all called as Rupanugas. Why Rupanugas only? Why not Sanatanugas and Jivanugas? There are 6 Goswamis. Why only Rupa Goswami? Because he was the person who was empowered to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayyam Dadati Swa Padantikam. The pranam mantra for Rupa Goswami is that we offer our obeisances on the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami, who has understood the heart of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he has given. But there are other Goswamis also who have also understood the heart of, not to that extent Rupa Goswami has understood, but there are other Goswamis also. So another thing which is told is that Radharani is directly served by Lalita Devi ji. So Krishna is served by Radharani. Radharani is assisted by Lalita Devi. And the foremost of Manjari who assists Lalita Devi is Rupa Manjari. So Rupa Manjari assists Lalita Devi ji, and Lalita Devi assists Radharani, and Radharani serves Sri Krishna. So in this way we see there is a direct approach. There is a Rupa Goswami is directly serving Lalita Devi, who is directly serving. Although other Goswamis are also Manjaris only, Lavang Manjari, Rati Manjari, Kamala Manjari. In this way other Goswamis are there. But Rupa Goswami has a special significance. He directly serves Lalita Devi, and Lalita Devi directly serves Radha. So in this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions were churned, and the essence was presented in this book of Upadeshamrita. Without following these instructions, entering the realm of pure devotion, and especially following the intricate and elevated path of spontaneous devotion, is not only difficult but impossible. So we are right now Vedi sadhakas, And our highest goal to achieve is Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous devotion towards the Supreme Lord in the footsteps of Brajvasis. But here it is said, without following these instructions which have been laid down in Updeshamrit, entering the realm of pure devotion is not possible. It's impossible. And following the intricate and elevated path of spontaneous devotion is not possible. So we have to very seriously study these and follow in our life these instructions of nectar of Updeshamrit. So everyone must be knowing that there was a servant who was serving Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His name was Govind Das. So on one occasion, Mahaprabhu was sitting with his devotees on the shore, ocean shore, and he was engaged in hearing narrations concerning Krishna. Rup Saru Damodar Prabhu and Ramananda Rai, these were the very close associates of Lord Chaitanya, and they used to sing and they used to tell stories based on mood of Mahaprabhu. They would understood the mood of Mahaprabhu. In this way, they used to recite various bhajans and various tunes of Krishna and various Hare Krishna Mahamantra Rag in that mode only in which Mahaprabhu is there. So when one time when Mahaprabhu was sitting on the ocean and he was engaged in this hearing narrations about Krishna Katha, seeing the dense groves of trees lining the shore of the blue ocean and the tall sand dunes, remembrance of Govardhan Hill and the Yamuna River with the many beautiful gardens and groves situated on her banks suddenly sprang up inside him. So Mahaprabhu was sitting on the ocean and he was seeing the dense groves of trees and sand dunes, like in Jagannath Puri also. There is a Chatak Parvat where Mahaprabhu was sitting and he was remembering Govardhan Hill. So in this way, Mahaprabhu has said also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he has said, Mora Man Vrindavan, that his heart is only consisting of all Krishna's remembrance, and there is a Vrindavan continuously manifesting in his heart. So when Mahaprabhu was remembering this tall sand dunes as Govardhan and Yamuna river, then he began bitterly weeping in separation. And that time he spoke some instructions to his associates. So when he was speaking those instructions, Rupa Goswami wrote some of those instructions and he presented that in form of Upadeshamrit. So Upadeshamrit was personally some instructions given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to some devotees, and Rupa Goswami wrote those instructions and presented in the form of this book. You must have seen also, like when Prabhupada used to give lectures and Prabhupada used to speak. Many of the books of Prabhupada are like his lectures which he has given, like teachings of Lord Kapila, teachings of Lord Kunti Devi. These are books which Prabhupada has given lectures. So devotees have printed those lectures in a form of a book. So in this way, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the bank of the ocean, he was giving those instructions. Rupa Goswami wrote those instructions in the form of this book as Updeshamrit. Vrindavaniyam rasakeli vartam kale na luptam nij shakti mukta sancarya rupe vatanot punasa prabhur vido pragivaloka srishtim. The last line says Iva loka srishtim. Iva means like or certainly. Loka srishtim, just as the beginning of creation, Lord Krishna gave entire knowledge to Brahmaji so that he can create this entire planet, entire universe he can create. There was nothing when Brahmaji was born. So he was given this Bhagavatam knowledge, like first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam also says, Tene Brahma Hidaya Adi Kave Muhyanti Yat Surya. Brahmaji was given this knowledge in the starting of creation. Similarly, when Vrindavan was totally, there was no Kalena Luptam because of the time and circumstances, all the pastimes of Krishna, Rasa Keli Vartam, whatever Krishna has performed in different rasas with his devotees. Krishna has performed so many leelas with his devotees in Vatsalya Ras, Vatsalya Ras, Dasya Ras, Hasya Ras, so many Madhure Ras. In all those rasas, Krishna has performed so many leelas in Vrindavan. But Kalena Luptam, because of the influence of the time, those leelas were hidden. Like Brahmaji was given knowledge by Krishna. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered Sanchare Rupe Vetanot Punasa. Puna means again. Sanchare Rupe. It was like empowerment by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami so that the Vrindavan, all the Leelas of Vrindavan can manifest again. And Goswamis went to Vrindavan, they were given these instructions. They have to bring out those pastime places which have been lost. They have to write scriptures. They have to establish a proper mood in which Vrindavan should be there. So they excavated so many places of lost pastimes of Krishna. Krishna performed pastime 5,000 years ago, and Mahaprabhu followers came 500 years ago. So they searched out those for so long. Rup Goswami was searching the deity of Sri Govind Dev. Everywhere he was going and every house he was asking, where is Govind Dev? Where is Govind Dev? So in this way, this verse says, just like Krishna empowered Lord Brahma, in this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered Rupa Goswami to establish the Vrindavan mood. So whatever we see in Vrindavan now, and people are discussing about Vrindavan pastimes, is actually Uchishta of Rupa Goswami. He has written so many books about pastimes of Lord Krishna and established from Nana Shastra. So many Shastras, all the Goswamis studied and they established those pastime places and holy places in Vrindavan. This is another glorification of Rupa Goswami. Priya Swarupe, Daita Swarupe, Prema Swarupe, Sahaja Virupe, Nijanurupe, Prabhure Karupe, Tattanurupe, Savila Swarupe. This is actually very poetic and it is like a very, like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has written these shlokas in such a beautiful form. Such a nice melody this is. So this verse says that Rupa Goswami was very dear to Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was personal assistant and secretary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was very dear. Priya Swarupe, Daita Swarupe, Prema Swarupe. He was filled with love of Lord Chaitanya. Rupa Goswami's heart was filled with love about Lord Chaitanya and Krishna. Sahaja Virupe. His heart is very simple. Is a Nijanu Rupe. Is exactly a manifestation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. Tatta Anurupe Savilas Rupe, and he's written all the pastimes which exhibit Krishna's pastime. He has written so many books. So this verse comes in Madhya Lila, 19th chapter. So now coming to the part, like our acharyas have written so many commentaries about Updeshamrit. So we are knowing about this nectar of instruction which Prabhupada has published, but there are acharyas like Bhaktisiddhanta Sri Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and before Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Radharaman Goswamis have written commentaries about Updeshamrit. Actually, sometime it is said that all of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Sri Thakur wrote so many commentaries about this book. So for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, this book is very important because it sets the standards very straight. It sets the standards in the beginning very straight. One, like Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur has to fight so many people that time who were Sahajiyas and were not following Vedic scriptures properly. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also has to fight so many Babajis that time were not following properly. So we know the struggle of our acharyas, and Prabhupada has to establish fighting all Mayavadi people. So if we will be reading these instructions which are given by Rupa Goswami, we will understand how this book is very important to, first of all, establish our faith very nicely. And this book has only 11 verses. If you see, in 1980s, I'm just reading the history of how this Updeshamrit came. Like Rup Goswami, we just recited shlokas praising Rup Goswami. So Rup Goswami has written these instructions. Then first commentary was written by Radharaman Temple Goswamis. Radharaman Temple, of a very famous temple, Vrindavan. So the Goswamis of Radharaman Temple, they wrote those instructions in Sanskrit language. So in the year 1890s, Bhaktivinoda Thakur traveled to Brajamandal in order to find works of the Goswamis. So he went for a pilgrimage and he was searching some work which have been written by Goswamis. So in the library of Vanamali Lal Goswami of Radharaman Temple, he found a copy of Sri Rup Goswami's Updeshamrit. So he found a written commentary by one of the Goswamis of Radharaman Temple. His name was Radharaman Goswami. He was a disciple of Radha Jivan Goswami, his great father. And so that commentary was there, and that book was there in library of Vanmali Lal Goswami in Radharaman Temple. Generally, if you see the Gaudiya trend, generally all the Goswami temples of Vrindavan, they don't have like when Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur also visited Vrindavan, so they didn't show much respect all the Goswami temples. Even when Prabhupada brought all the disciples, they were not so favorable. But later now, everyone has a very dear relationship with ISKCON. But earlier it was not there with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur took some very steps, like he he was very much against about this caste Goswamis. But there was one temple, Radharaman temple. From the beginning only, these Goswamis are very much favorable to Gaudiya Vaishnavas. In current scenarios also, you will see if you go to Vrindavan, Radharaman temple Goswamis are having very strong relationship with ISKCON and Gaudiya Math. So we can see from our acharyas also, like Bhakti Vinod Thakur, when he went in 1890s, he was searching some books which have been written, and he found out this Updeshamrit in Vanmali Lal Goswami's library. So he brought that, and Vanmali Goswami very happily gave this handwritten copy to Bhaktivinoda Thakur so that he can write his commentaries and distribute in Bengal and everywhere. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he wrote his commentary name was Piyush Varshani Vritti. So first commentary which was written by our Acharya was Piyush Varshani Vritti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote. Before that, Radharaman Goswami ji of Radharaman Temple, he wrote Upadesh Amrit Prakashika. Upadesh Prakashika. He wrote that commentary. Then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote Anuvritti. Anu means following, and Vritti means whatever has been written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he just followed those instructions and elaborated on it. And when we will be reading Nectar of Instruction by Srila Prabhupada, you will see that Prabhupada has quoted both of them. Prabhupada has written commentary based on Anuvritti and Piyush Varshani Vritti. So we will be reading, we will see those sections. Prabhupada is quoting Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote those commentaries in Bengali language. So then Prabhupada translated into English language. So in 1890, he brought this book, and 1898, after 8 years, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur wrote a Bengali commentary to Srila Rupa Goswami's Updeshamrit. And he named his commentary as Piyush Varshani. Piyush means Amrit and Varshani means shower. So a shower of nectar. Like Prabhupada has given nectar of instruction, Rupa Goswami has given Upadeshamrit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary is called as Piyush Varshani, a shower of nectar. This was serialized in the 9th volume of Sajjan Toshni. So Sajjan Toshni was a book which was printed by Gaudiya Patrika, and in the 9th volume, this commentary was published. And this commentary was actually based on Sanskrit commentary of Radharaman Goswami, of Radharaman temple. So in this way, the parampara has come. Rup Goswami has written, and Radharaman Goswami of Vrindavan, he wrote a commentary on Updeshamrit in Sanskrit, and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote in Bengali, then Prabhupada wrote in English language. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also composed 11 verses in Bengali prose. So prose are like which can be sung. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written so many songs. So in this way, he has written some statements or like some paragraphs based on Rup Goswami's instructions also. So those are called as Upadesha Amrit Bhasha. So this is like our parampara has contributed towards so much towards this book. Now, if you have Nectar of Instruction by Srila Prabhupada in your hands, I will be reading some of the statements which Prabhupada has written. So we are starting with the preface. So some of the statements have been given on the screen, but some I will not be like, I have not written all the statements. Some focus statements I have presented on the screen. The Krishna conscious movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The very first statement Prabhupada writes in the preface is like, the entire Krishna conscious ISKCON movement is under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. That means whatever rules and regulations Rupa Goswami desired that should be followed, it is our like pleasure. It should be our pleasure to follow all those instructions, and it is a guiding principles for all the followers. The Krishna conscious movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Bengali Vaishnavas, Gaud Desh means Bengal Desh. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Bengali Vaishnavas are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Desh is called as Gaud Desh, Bengal. So the very first disciples or direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were 6 Goswamis. There were many other associates also. They were also very close. But disciples are like those, like some are like considered as God brothers, but some are like disciples who will follow the instruction very seriously and carry forward the mission. So in this way, the Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada writes, Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Rupa Raghunath Pade Hoibe Akuti Kabhe Hama Bhujabo Se Yugal Priti. If we literally go with this translation, when I will be serving the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami and other Goswamis, when I will develop that taste of serving their lotus feet, Kabe Hame Bhujabo Se Yugal Priti. Then I will understand the Yugal Priti. What is the relationship between Radha and Krishna and their pastimes? But Prabhupada writes, when I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, so Rupa Raghunath Pade means the instructions or the literature which has been given by the Goswamis. When I will develop that eagerness to understand those instructions, Kabe Hame Bhujabo Se Yugal Priti. Then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. So the process to approach Radha Krishna pastimes is not direct. One has to first take instructions of Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami and other Goswamis seriously. One has to follow them. One has to read those instructions. Then they can approach those pastimes which are very intimate, which are Radha Krishna pastimes. They are very intimate. So one has to follow these. And very first instructions are these Updesha Amrit, which we have started today. So we are called as Rupanuga. Sri Rupa Goswami was the leader of all Goswamis. Prabhupada writes, Srila Rupa Goswami was the leader of all Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us this Upadeshamrit. So he was the first Goswami whom Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent to Vrindavan to establish these entire teachings. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him the 8 verses known as Shikshashtaka. So in every temple, Prabhupada has made this rule that in morning we sing these prayers, Shikshashtaka, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, Bhavamaha Dava Agni Nirvapanam. Starting with this verse, we recite these 8 verses which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has left behind, and these are very much these instructions by Lord Chaitanya actually brings one from a very platform of like Vedi, Chaito Darpan, when he starts cleansing his heart to a platform where he can literally feel the separation of Krishna. To such platform, he has given such instructions in those 8 verses only. Generally, any parampara or any institution stands on things like the main person gives some instruction, the main person, like in Shankaracharya Sampradaya and other Sampradayas which are going on from 1000 years, we will see that Madhvacharya gave initiation to 11 disciples and then they were told to go further and make one sannyasi disciples. But we will see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has not, these 6 Goswamis were the principal ones and there was no will. Like nothing was written, you have to do this, you have to, some instructions were given and they were sent to Vrindavan. Then Rupa Goswami established the entire systematically presentation of the entire Gaudiya Parampara. His contribution is to establish very nicely this entire thing and based on teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu gave 8 verses, Rupa Goswami gave this 11 verses in the form of Updeshamrit. And these 11 verses tell us how we can become pure Vaishnavas. So Prabhupada writes, in all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. So this is the very first step for any self-realization path. Anyone who is trying to follow any path, whether bhakti, karma yoga or jnana yoga, in all spiritual affairs, first duty is to control his mind and senses. Agitated minds cannot understand actually the process of any bona fide path. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Prabhupada writes in this preface, everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. Tada rajastamo bhava. All are engrossed in passion and ignorance. One must promote himself the platform of goodness, sattva guna. So this is a basic thing which is required to understand these things. And by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami, and then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. So things will be revealed. We don't have to go after them. If we try to follow these instructions sincerely, these things are, the process is revelation. It's not like conquering something. We can't say that we have become Bhakti Shastri and one day we will be like a self-realized soul. These things are revealed and it depends on how much we follow these instructions of our Goswamis. This is a very famous statement. This actually establishes the goal of Krishna conscious movement. Prabhupada writes, advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. You must have heard this statement in many of the lectures which all Prabhujis gave in various ISKCON temples. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. This word attitude actually is like it says now when you have to open a big hall, you sometimes require a small key to open the lock. If you open the lock, then the entire hall is open and you can conduct some programs or conferences there. So this attitude word is like a key which can open the entire Krishna conscious paradigm. Attitude can, in general terms, it's called as manovritti, what is going in your mind. If service is a burden for you, or Krishna consciousness practices are like boring for you or a burden for you, then our advancement will also be like that only. And are we cultivating some harsh things in our heart about some devotees? Some incidences are there in the heart which are not going. So it all depends what we are carrying in our heart and mind, and that depends. It will lead to our advancement in Krishna consciousness. if we are carrying very positive aspects of Krishna consciousness in our heart, then our advancement will be very nice. If we are carrying very negative thoughts, like some devotees or some issues or something, why this, why that, some anarthas, or we are doing aparadhs towards our holy name, chanting of the holy name, we are not chanting our holy name sincerely. So this all comes under attitude of the follower. The follower of Krishna conscious movement has to have very clear attitude, and these instructions will actually provide a platform where you can learn what are these rules and regulation and what we are aspiring for. A follower of the Krishna conscious movement should become a perfect Goswami. See, Prabhupada is saying all the followers of Krishna conscious movement, their goal should be to become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. So the pure Vaishnavas who are following the teachings of Rupa Goswami and all, they are called as Goswamis. In Vrindavan, this is the title by which the director of each temple is known. So in Vrindavan, if you go, there are all the servants of Lord there in all the temples, Radha Damodar temple, Radha Raman temple, Radha Sham Sundar temple. The director of each temple is known as, is given this term. He is a Goswami. He is a leader of this temple. He is a director of this temple. So a Vaishnava who purely follows these rules and regulations which are laid down by our Goswamis, our Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, if we follow, we will also be called as Goswami. We will understand also what is the definition of Goswami. In future slides, we will see that. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna must become a Goswami. See, Goswami means a person who can control his urges. Swami means master, Go means senses. So Go means senses and Swami means master. So the person who can control his senses very nicely, he is called as Goswami. But Goswami is not the highest thing. It is like a very prerequisite for understanding the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. It's like a basic thing which every devotee, a perfect devotee of Krishna, has to become a Goswami. Then later things can be understood. But first we have to see, next slide also says this. Go means the senses, the Swami means the master. So unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. Prabhupada says that to achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami, then a pure devotee of the Lord. So what we will achieve by studying NOI, we will understand how a Goswami lives, what is the first step we have to take to become a Goswami. So to achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami, then a pure devotee. So a pure devotee is higher than a Goswami. A Goswami is a person who can control his senses and he's the master of his senses. But master of the senses can be many other people also, but they might not be the pure devotee of the Lord. But if one becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, automatically his senses are controlled. It works in that way also. You don't have to first endeavor like I have to. If you try to purify your intentions and purify your devotion to become more devoted, then automatically your senses will be controlled also. One must follow the instructions known as Upadeshamrit, which have been given by Rupa Goswami. So this ends like the preface of Srila Prabhupada, Nectar of Instruction. There is an interesting thing which is mentioned in this statement. Is NOI meant for neophytes? Neophytes means the devotees who have just started their devotion. Is Nectar of Instruction or Updeshamrit is meant for those people who are like just beginners? It is not like that. In one of the statements, somebody has said that, some Goswami has said that these instructions are very much essential for those practitioners who have taken sannyas also. You will see the very first statement, very first verse of this Nectar of Instruction, how it establishes a very high standard, and it will lead to the Raganuga platform if we follow these instructions very nicely. So neophyte means that this is the first thing which has to be followed. The very first instruction is to become a Goswami. So that thing, becoming a Goswami is also a very highest thing. So Srila Rupa Goswami has given many other books also. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu we will be studying. And Vidagdha Madhav, Lalit Madhav, he has written all pastimes of Radha Krishna in those pastimes, in those books. But Upadeshamrit consists the first instructions for devotees who are trying to understand the philosophy step by step. One should follow these instructions very strictly. Then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Prabhupada writes this. If we follow this instruction very seriously, then it will be very easy for making our life successful in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada wrote this book in Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, Raman Reti. He completed this preface there. It was the day of Vishwarup Mahotsav. Vishwarup Mahotsav is a pastime when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Pandharpur and he was searching for his brother, and then he came to know that his brother Vishwarup, who had earlier taken sannyas, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know that Vishwarup has gone to South India, and then after touring South India, he came to Pandharpur also, and there he left his body. So on that day, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know, he celebrated a Mahotsava, which is called as Vishwarup Mahotsava. Vishwarup Mahotsava is also the day when Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada also took sannyas. Prabhupada took sannyas on this day only in 1959 from Keshavji Maharaj in Gaudiya Math in Vrindavan. So this day also denotes that Prabhupada took sannyas on that day and he completed this preface in Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. So in this way we have completed the preface. We will now start with verse number 1. So if anybody has any questions, they can just ask any small doubts if they have.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, this all slides will be shared to us, right?
Yeah, these slides will be shared to you.
Oh, great.
These slides will be, I will be making a PDF and I will be sharing all these slides.
And whatever we are going to have it, all the material will be shared to us. Means the complete this Bhakti Shastri, right?
Material is this only. I have these slides only. Otherwise, you have to read books which Prabhupada has given. Questions I will be giving. Questions will be based on the commentaries of Prabhupada. I will be giving those questions. You have to read the purports and you have to answer those questions.
Okay.
Anyone else has a question? So going forward, we are starting Upadeshamrit. So this is like Upadeshamrit at a glance. It's just like 11 verses presented in 3 pictures here. So first it is said, avoid things which are unfavorable to bhakti. 6 urges and 6 vices. These are presented in first and second verse of NOI. Adopt things which are favorable to bhakti, which are 6 virtues, 6 loving exchanges. These are third, fourth, fifth, and sixth verses. Then it is established in Nectar of Instruction what is the holiest, most holiest sport in Vrindavan, Radha Kund, and who is the highest servitor of Sri Krishna, Srimati Radharani, and how one achieves that highest platform of Raganuga. Those are mentioned in 8, 9, 10, 11 verses, last verses of Upadeshamrita. So, verse number 1, which says as 6 urges of mind, speech, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals. So these are the unfavorable items or activities which one should avoid while practicing bhakti. So avoid things which are unfavorable for bhakti, which in verse number 1, the 6 urges are described, which will be taken in detail now. Verse number 1. Then 6 vices like overeating, over-endeavoring, useless talk prajalpa, improper compliance with scriptural rules, niyamagraha, bad association, and greed, lolyam. So these are verse number 2, which says about these things should be avoided. These should not be like these are unfavorable for practicing devotees. Accepting things favorable for bhakti. So the last slide was mentioning avoid things which are unfavorable for bhakti. 6 urges and 6 vices, verse number 1 and verse number 2. Accepting things favorable for bhakti. Those are described in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th and 7th. So 5 verses describe. So the 6 virtues which are described in 3rd verse of NOI are enthusiasm, utsaha, nishchaya, dhairya, tat karma pravartana, rasangyascha cha. So in this way, the 3rd verse describes enthusiasm, determination, patience, prescribed practices, avoiding bad association, and following the acharya. This is verse number 3rd. These are the virtues which a practitioner, if imbibes these virtues, he will advance in bhakti. These are favorable for bhakti. Then there are 6 loving exchanges, like exchanging gifts between devotees, sharing their hearts, guhyam akhyate pritchati, feeding one another, bhunkte bhojayate cheva. These are mentioned in verse number 4. Then there appropriate respect towards different devotees, like the Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam Adhikaris are there. So based on their level of understanding of scriptures, one has to respect those devotees in that way only. Based on like Uttam Bhakta, if he is there, then you go and associate with Uttam Bhakta, take guidance from him. And if Madhyam Adhikari is there, then you become friendly with him, take association with him, and exchange gifts with him. If Kanishta is there, you show mercy on him. So in this way, appropriate respect towards different devotees is mentioned in verse number 5. And verse number 6 says, not seeing with material vision. Like if when you will be practicing devotional life, there will be like gathering of devotees and various devotees have different conditionings. So one should not be like seeing those conditioning and judging devotees. Example in that is given of Ganga, Mother Ganga. When a person is going and taking bath in Ganga, he doesn't see that some obnoxious elements are floating in Ganga because people have thrown those elements in waters of Ganga. He doesn't see that. He just takes the essence and worships Ganga. So in this way, one should not see devotees based on material vision. And then the last is awakening dormant taste for Krishna's name. Example is given in that verse of jaundice. When a person is having jaundice, he has to continue taking sugarcane juice. So in this way, he can develop his dormant taste for Krishna's name, holy names. So in this way, these are the things which are very much favorable. So in last slide, we saw which are unfavorable, the urges of the mind, speech, and anger, and vices which we have to avoid. These are unfavorable for bhakti, and these are favorable elements for bhakti, which one, if one practices, he can advance in Krishna consciousness very nicely. Then, after practicing devotion very nicely, after staying in association of devotees and understanding the tattva nicely, one can then go and stay in Vraja. Actually, till 7th verse only, if we practice nicely, our lives will be perfect. And by Prabhupada's grace, he has given Vrindavan everywhere actually. Every ISKCON temple has Radha Krishna deities, and everywhere devotees are practicing and chanting Krishna's name and Krishna's glory. So Vraja is not a physical location, but it's like a consciousness, and following devotees can very much easily take advantage of those oases which have been created by Srila Prabhupada. Staying in Vraja and following devotees. So all the senior devotees are there, Madhyam Adhikaris are there. We stay with them and practice this devotion nicely. That is mentioned in 8th verse. Residing at the holy spot of Sri Radha Kund at Govardhan Hill. So then one advances and one follows in the footsteps of Brajavasis and he stays near Radha Kund. This verse also establishes the highest abode of worship for all Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Sri Radha Kund. So this verse we will see when we will go in these details. One by one, we will cover all these verses in detail. Then the 10th verse establishes how Radharani is very dear to Krishna, and her Kund, Sri Radha Kund, is also very most dear to Krishna. In this way, the 10th verse also establishes. And bathing in Sri Radha Kund and taking shelter of Radharani, this is very highest platforms. So this all 8 to 11 verses actually comes from Raganuga Bhakti. These are very high elevated platforms. But as I said, if we just do our practice till 7 also and understand these facts of which Rupa Goswami has mentioned in Updesha Amrit, these instruction, if we follow nicely, then we can one day aspire for higher realms also, higher devotional realms. So another breakup of Updesha Amrit is like this. Verse number 7 to 7 actually mentions about Vedi Sadhana Bhakti. One has to step by step practice those things. And then 8th verse mentions about Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and 9th verse to 11th verse mentions about Bhav Bhakti and Prem Bhakti. So this is the very first verse. I would say that how many people are actually logged in now?
I have logged in.
How many
26
are
Prabhuji.
there?
26.
How many are there in the meeting now?
26 Prabhuji.
26. Okay. So I would suggest if 2 Matajis and 2 Prabhujis can recite this verse after me, I will first recite. 2 Matajis and 2 Prabhujis can recite one by one. So let me first recite. This is the very first of instruction of Rupa Goswami. 6 urges to be controlled. As I mentioned in the previous slide, first verse tells about the 6 urges to be controlled. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam jivva vegam udaropastha vegam etan vegan jo vishaheta dhira sarvam apimam prithvim sasishya. I will recite another time, then some Prabhuji can recite 2 times, and 2 Matajis can recite. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam Jivva vegam udaropastha vegam etan vegan yo vishaheta dhira sarvam apimam prithvim sashishya. Any Prabhuji can recite this verse?
Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jiva vegam, udaropastha vegam, etan vegan yo vishayeta dhira, sarvam apimam prativim sashishyad.
Okay, another Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Vacho vegan manasah krodha vegan jiva vegan udaropastha vegan itan vegan yo visaheta dhira sarvam apimam prithivimam sasyat. Hare Krishna.
Okay, one Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी वाचो वेगम मनसा क्रोध वेगम जीवा वेगम उदरोपस्थ वेगम एतान वेगान यो विसाहेत धीरः सर्वाम अपि मां पृथिवीं साशिष्यात्.
Okay, another Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण वाचो वेगाम मनसो क्रोध वेगाम जीवा वेगाम उदरोपस्थ वेगाम एतान वेगान यो विषहेत धीरा सर्वामपि मां पृथ्वीं सशिष्यात्.
So if we just recite these verses every day, so there are 26 people. If we go on reciting, it will actually be memorized also. You can memorize just by reciting only. So first thing is that any verse, if you want to memorize, you don't focus on the meaning first. You just recite the verse and memorize it. slowly, you understand one by one word of that verse. Just go slow and understand each word. And you have already memorized the verse, then you will understand the meaning. It will become more pakka. It will become more ingrained in our heart if we just follow this procedure. So everyone, I will be giving some small questions also. You can write this shloka in that whenever you will be writing these question answers. So these are the 6 urges. Interestingly, Rupa Goswami has written in the very first verse also. In very first verse, he has established the facts very clear. Like when we are meeting someone, we tell, what are your things? You just lay down very clearly. Don't vague things. Don't make the things vague. Just write down whatever you want me to perform. So in this way, Rupa Goswami has given this instruction very, like he has laid down. You have to follow this. There is no compromise in following these things. So the 6 urges are described as a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demand, the actions of anger, and the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Is actually this verse, the last line of this verse, sometimes it feels like a arrogant thing which has been mentioned. One is qualified to make disciples all over the world. When in the initial days when I came to when I was new in Krishna consciousness, I was reading this book. I was wondering why this has written that a person who because Updeshamrit begins with such a mood that Rupa Goswami has written his instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the very first verse says, the person will make disciples all over the world. Actually, some of our acharyas, they were not ready to make even one disciple. They were not willing to have some disciple and serve him. They were so much absorbed in Krishna, they thought we are so fallen that we don't want any of our disciples to be there. But here, Rupa Goswami has written that he can make disciples all over the world, the person who controls these Vegas. So after controlling these Vegas, he will be called as a Goswami. 6 Vegas. Why Rupa Goswami has written these 6 urges in the beginning, the reason is that because they form a very preliminary basics for practicing Krishna consciousness. Making disciples all over the world is a secondary thing. We will understand this fact in more deeper details in future slides, but these urges have to be restricted. And Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur has written elaborate commentaries on how one should be very much careful about these Vegas, these urges. One time, one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, then he went and he told Prabhupada what he has achieved in Krishna consciousness. He has distributed so many books. He has preached to so many people. He has met so many people and has taken context of all those people. He's doing elaborate things. And Prabhupada was listening. So Prabhupada in the end said, "But are you free from lust now? Are you free from these Vegas which are there? Are you able to tolerate those Vegas?" So it's actually good that we are preaching in so many areas and we are distributing Krishna consciousness literature. Those things are required. But simultaneously, Prabhupada always emphasized that we should practice also what Rupa Goswami has given. The more we practice, the more the purity will develop and the more we can preach nicely. Prabhupada's golden words are, purity is the basis. Sorry, books are the basis. Purity is the force. Purity is the force. Books are the basis. Utility is the principle. So in this way, Prabhupada has given very golden words that the force which carries a practitioner to go ahead in his daily life, the force which carries the practitioner to establish Krishna consciousness in different areas is the purity. And this first verse, which tells us to control these urges, actually develops the very fabric of that purity. Then our devotion enhances in that fabric. One circle is made, one capsule is made, then the inside material can be put. Like we can put the inside material which will make the effect. So devotion is the internal thing which is there in the capsule, but the capsule is like these Vegas, which have to be controlled. So these are the 6 Vegas. We will be discussing these Vegas now, these urges. So before discussing those things, those 6 items, first let us understand why that first verse was given. So this is the slide. If you see, it is mentioning about 6 symptoms of Sharanagati. The person who is totally surrendered to Krishna, what are the symptoms which he exhibits? So this verse describes about, this verse is from Hari Bhakti Vilas. This verse says, Anukulasya sankalpa pratikulasya varjanam rakshayati iti vishvaso goptritve varanam tatha atma nikshep karpanya shadvidha sharanagati. So 6 symptoms of Sharanagati. Shadvidha Sharanagati. What are the symptoms of Sharanagati? How you can understand that this person is totally surrendered to Krishna. So the first statement says, Anukulasya Sankalpa. Whatever favorable for Krishna consciousness, he will very much happy to take part in that. Sankalpa, he will be very much enthusiastic to accept those things which are favorable for Krishna consciousness. Pratikulasya varjanam, which are unfavorable, he will be rejecting those things he will be rejecting like a person throws the garbage. In this way, he will be rejecting those things. Anukulasya sankalpa, pratikulasya varjanam. So these are 2. There are 6 symptoms. Rakshayati iti vishvaso. He has that complete faith in his heart that Krishna will protect him. Goptritve varanam tatha. He has complete faith in the heart that Krishna is the maintainer of his entire planet, entire universe, and he will maintain me also. Atma nikshep. Atma nikshep means feeling oneself incapable of doing anything independently. Like whenever devotees meet, sometimes devotees say as a matter of gesture, if Krishna desires, this will happen. But pure devotees or great souls, when they say, if Krishna desires, this will happen, they actually meant it. They actually mean it. That when they're saying, if Krishna desires, this will manifest. If Krishna desires, this thing will happen. If Krishna desires, we will be able to crack this preaching opportunity. So they are dependent on Krishna. Atma Nikshepa Karpanya. The 6th item is Karpanya, humility. We in Krishna consciousness, slowly we get some positions. Like in management companies and other companies, when we advance in our material life, we get some positions. Outside material positions, we get when we do some material activities nicely. But in spiritual activities, when we do some activities nicely, we also get spiritual positions. Like in the previous slide also, we saw how a Goswami is like a director of the temple. But this last item is says Karpanya, humility. He has to, his shelter towards Krishna is full of Dhanyata. He's like Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written so many bhajans in that mood. He is feeling like his bhajans are in a mood that he's feeling totally helpless and he's crying out to Krishna, Gopinath, Mama Nivedana Suno. So in this way, Karpanya principle is there. So in this way, this 6 items are like symptoms of a person who is totally surrendered to Krishna. Shadvida Sharanagati. Why this verse has been quoted? Because if you see the first 2 lines, Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya Varjanam, accepting things which are favorable for Krishna consciousness, rejecting things which are unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. So the 6 urges which has to be controlled is actually Pratikulasya Varjanam, which are unfavorable. And in future slides, we will see those things which are favorable for Krishna consciousness and have to be accepted. So Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya Varjanam. When these things are done, these first 2 items are done, these are like the symptoms of a person who is surrendered to Krishna. Prabhu, I'm traveling in train. I will not be eating anything which is cooked by non-devotees. This is like anukulasya sankalpa and pratikulasya varjanam. You are rejecting things which are not accepted, which are like cooked by people who are non-devotees. Some of the time when people are traveling, they don't have any option. They can eat fruits, or it's a real emergency. You have to take some medicines. You can take which things which have least sinful effects. But these favorable and unfavorable things has to be understood properly and has to be followed. That's why they become the very basic of our surrender to Krishna. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Paritajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. So Sharanam will come by these two things first. Pratikulasya Varjanam, Anukulasya Sankalpa. So this says the acceptance of that which is favorable and rejection of that which is unfavorable are not direct limbs of Shuddha Bhakti. Just now I said that Anukulasya Pratikulasya Varjanam, and they will help you advance in Bhakti, but they are not like Shuddha Bhakti practices. You are just avoiding food which is cooked by non-devotees. But this will become very much favorable for practicing Shuddha Bhakti. Our limbs of Shuddha Bhakti are Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vandanam, Padsevanam. These are Shuddha Bhakti Angas. They are these practices of like controlling the urges is not like a direct bhakti towards Supreme Lord. Even a Mayavadi scholar or another person who is not totally in devotion, they also might be controlling these urges. Maybe sometimes more better than a devotee. More better than a devotee, they might be controlling these urges. But when a devotee controls them, they become anukul towards bhakti. They become favorable. These items become very much favorable for him to practice the direct limbs of Shuddha Bhakti. So these things has to be understood in this way that they help to practice the purity of Harinam, purity of Harikatha. We can get very easily if we practice this principle of favorable and unfavorable. Rather, they are aspects of that faith which is characterized by Sharanagati, which in turn bestows qualification for bhakti. So when we practice this Anukul and Pratikul, they become like a qualification. If like you are entering from school to you are entering now to college, so you have to pass some entrance test. Like recently, some of our devotees appeared in the NEET examinations for MD degrees and all after MBBS. So those examinations or those tests are becoming their prerequisite for them to enter into MD degrees or another higher degrees. So in this way, if one has to practice bhakti sincerely, these become the prerequisites or these are the qualifications. These are favorable winds which provide a nice cooling air for us to advance in bhakti process. So if we categorize these 6 urges into 3 categories, like 6 urges were, these are the 6 urges: urge to speak, urge of the mind, vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, krodh is third, krodha vegam, jivva udaro upastha vegam. These are the 6 urges. But if we categorize them into 3 only, then they become speech, mind and body. Speech is vacho vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam comes in mind, and Udara Upastha Vegam comes in body. So these 6 urges has to be controlled. So they become favorable, but they are not direct limbs of bhakti. They are favorable things by which we can practice the direct limbs of bhakti. So 6 urges to be controlled. Pratikulasya Varjanam. The 6 urges are as follows: urge to speak, urge of the mind, the demands of the mind, urge of anger, urge of tongue, belly, and genitals. The attempt to restrain these 6 urges does not constitute bhakti sadhana. One cannot say, Prabhuji, I am controlling my urges very nicely, but I have stopped chanting. This cannot happen. Chanting is the first priority. It is like our bhakti sadhana. But when we practice this controlling of 6 urges, they help and they become very much favorable for doing our sadhana. Rather, it is a staircase to ascend to the platform of eligibility through which one can enter the temple of bhakti. So if temple is made on the first floor, if our Radha Krishna temple, ISKCON temple is on the first floor, we need a staircase to approach the temple. So these favorable items or avoiding the unfavorable item becomes a staircase so that we can go and see the deities, we can offer our pranams to Srila Prabhupada. In this way, we can enter into the temple of bhakti. So in this way, these things have to be understood. These 6 urges present various types of obstacles. When a person is not able to follow the demand, if a person is actually gets flowed into the demands of these urges, they become a binding block and they become a great obstacles in his path of devotional life. They say that these 6 urges present various types of obstacle in the immature stage of the practitioner. Those who are mature, they don't have to endeavor for controlling their senses. Those who are on the very much high platform of devotion, for them it automatically happens. They don't have to follow this, they don't have to worry about controlling these urges. This happen in the immature stage only, that a person is struggling to control his 6 urges. So these 6 urges present various types of obstacles in the immature stage for the practitioner entering the path of bhakti. At that time, the devotee, by taking shelter of the mood of exclusive Sharanagati and by avoiding the 10 kinds of offenses to the holy name, he can advance. So what is mentioned in this statement? And just imagine that some urge is coming, urge to eat or some anger in the mind. So what you can do at that time, you can remember these 6 symptoms of devotional life. Anukulasya sankalpa, patikulasya varjanam, that one has to take shelter of Krishna, one has to understand that Krishna is the only protector and maintainer. Whatever difficulties we are facing now, somehow Krishna will protect us in these circumstances. So in this way, when a person takes exclusive Sharanagati and he avoids, while chanting, he avoids his Nama Pradas. There are 10 Nama Pradas and 11th is like unattentive chanting. So when these Nama Prad, while we are chanting the holy name, best is to chant early morning. And if you are avoiding these offenses, then we can very easily overcome these obstacles, the urges. Like some of our devotees, they have taken a vow in this Kartik month, which is going on very auspicious month, and they have taken a vow that they will not take any breakfast or any food items till the time they have not completed their 16 rounds. Please keep it on mute. So till the time they have not completed their rounds, they will not eat anything. So in this way, some people take these vows, and this actually goes against the urges of the mind, because mind always urges, eat Baba, eat, you don't have to worry, chant later. But if a devotee takes such a vow that he will not do anything before completing his round, so Krishna becomes pleased by that Sharanagati. Krishna becomes pleased by such efforts. So in this way, when a person is avoiding the 10 kinds of offenses and chanting nicely and is completely taking shelter of the Supreme Lord, he can slowly overcome these obstacles. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami has written, Anya Bhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam Anukulena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktiruttama. So when we will be reading Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, by Krishna's grace, when we will reaching that stage of reading Bhakti Rasamrita, this is a very famous verse and very elaborate descriptions have been given about each word of this verse. We'll be reading at that time, but just for now, I am just saying that this is the definition of pure bhakti, uttam bhakti, in the very first verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Rupa Goswami has given this verse, that a person who is on the platform of uttam bhakti, he is not, his devotion is never covered with jnana or karma. He always follows Krishna's instructions and the instructions given by his superior authorities who are followers of Krishna, spiritual master and acharyas. In that performance, bhakti is termed as Uttama Bhakti. Why this definition is mentioned now in this discourse? Just to state that if one wants to practice this Uttam Bhakti, which has been mentioned by Rupa Goswami, in any stage he cannot reach this Uttam Bhakti level unless he is able to control his urges, which is mentioned in NOI first verse, Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. Unless one controls his urges, he cannot reach the platform of Uttam Bhakti, which Rupa Goswami has given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shoka vimarsha adibhir bhaver akrantam yasya manasam katham tasya mukundasya spurti sambhava bhavet. Within the heart of one who is full of anger and pride, shoka amarsha adibhir bhaver. When the heart is filled with these bhavas of anger, pride, jealousy, and lamentation, akrantam yasya manasam. Akrantam means aggressors, like in today's term, terrorists. These are the terrorists which have gone inside the heart of a person. The pride and the anger and the lamentation and jealousy, these terrorists have entered into the heart and captured our heart. When the heart is full with these terrorists, katham tasya mukundasya, how can the pure devotion about Supreme Lord Mukunda, how can the spurti can develop in his heart? There is no possibility of Krishna being manifest in his heart till the time these akranta shoka amarshadi bhavir akrantam yasya manasam, and these have entered our heart, pure devotion cannot take place. So unless one control these urges, the pure devotion to Krishna cannot arise in his heart. This verse says. So I think I will be covering this slide and the next slide. Then we will take for 5-10 minutes. If any questions are there, then we will end. So just 2 slides I will cover more. Contaminations such as lust, anger, and greed cause the mind to become engrossed in fleeting objects of sensual gratification. So when there are contaminations in the heart, one becomes very much engrossed in the sensual gratification.